another episode, Know Thy Shepherd, where we explore the real life of the servants of God. And today we have the lead pastor, Kikuyu. Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
Now, let me give you a minute to give us a brief introduction about yourself.
Okay, my name is Evans Mutamba. I am married to Christine, Risa, and we are blessed with 3 children. Born again, love the Lord Jesus Christ deeply and passionately. That's all about that's who I am.
Now, give us a brief history about your childhood experience.
Wow, my childhood experience. I was born and raised up in a polygamous family. My father had 3 wives, and my mother was the last wife of the 3. The first born to my mother, and the 11th born to my father. We used to go to church, Roman Catholic Church. That's the church that I was raised up in, and did all things that young boys will do. At the age of 13, I technically moved away from home. So I was from age 13 all through. I've never lived with my parents. I lived with my aunt, sister to my father, to my mother, until now. I mean, so I had experience of my parents for 13 years, and thereafter I've lived without my parents. It's not that they are dead; they are alive, but I just moved away to start living, not my own, but with my relatives, my friends. Now with my wife, and our children.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what really made you move away from your parents?
They are called cares of life. At that time, my father, we were many, being the 11th born, and we are 22 children. So at that time, my elder stepbrothers and sisters, a number of them had finished college, were working, but because of polygamy issue, they could not support the old man in paying our fees. And we were quite a number. At that time, we were 4 in high school. So when I was joining Form 1, it was too heavy for my father. So he couldn't pay my fees, and I had to look for help. And so my aunt took me in and took me to high school. So that's the reason I left home.
So in that period, when you moved away from your parents,
Yeah.
what dark paths do you take? Because all young boys, as you all know them, they are not perfect.
Wow. Well, when I was young, from age 5, of course, I taking care of sheep, goats, and cows, which was quite fun for me. That I really liked. Going to the riverside and fighting with other boys, wrestling there. It was quite fun. But I think when my father was economically challenged to pay my fees, I developed some level of bitterness, and I felt some level of rejection because I thought my father didn't do much to ensure that I was in school. We had a lot of cows, though by then cows were quite cheap. A very big ox or oxen will go for maybe a few hundreds, and so my father had a number of them. He felt he sold quite many to educate my older brothers and sisters, and maybe he was just giving up when it was my time, and that affected me. I felt a level of rejection from my father. And that messed up our relationship. Really, to a certain point, we were not talking. By the time I was leaving home, I remember one time, my father punished me that after plowing in the morning at 11, he still wanted me to go to take care of cows while the others were at school. So it was hard. So he came to punish me and he told me, I knew you never mean good for me. So it's time you can now just kill me today. And it's short after that I left. So I left home with a lot of bitterness as I was going to stay with my aunt. I came to know the Lord far much later, and we had to mend the relationship along the way.
So at that moment, did you ever regret ever being born in that family?
Yeah, definitely. I did regret a lot. I've told in Pastor Nekesa and many people in my life that I'm the shortest in terms of height in our family, and probably the darkest of them all. And I felt kind of not so much impressed by even my own siblings, the older ones. So that really worked against me in my young age. But God came through.
So being in a polygamous family, kind of an area, did you all live at the same place?
Yes. We lived in the same compound, different houses. We used to have breakfast from our mother's houses and lunch, but supper, there was a rota. So there was day one from our oldest stepmother, and that day fire would not be lit in any other house except in my first stepmother. And the second day, second stepmother, and then third, my mother. And so it was survival for the fittest. Ugali is put there, and whoever rushes first will be privileged to be satisfied.
So during that moment, is there a moment where you felt the other parents weren't treating you the same as their kids?
It was almost playing out almost every day. Almost every day. It was, you'll be loved today, will be shown some kind of love today, and tomorrow something happens and it's cancelled completely. You'll just be shown that you don't belong. You are not their child. Especially when my mom could travel to see her parents or her relative for 1, 2, 3 days. It was never easy. Things were quite tough.
Yes.
Yeah, quite tough.
So could you kindly give us a brief scenario where you felt, mother vile ananipeleka si poa.
I remember one time my mom had traveled to, it was a market day, and the biggest market, I think, up to now, maybe second biggest market could be Kimilili. And Kimilili should be around 20 kilometers from our home. So, and those days you'll walk like 10 kilometers to catch Mawingo. Those days of Mawingo, you may not be aware. So my mom walked, I think, half the distance to catch Mawingo, go to Kimilili, and so she left quite early in the morning, maybe at 4 or 5 in the morning. I wasn't awake, and so I wake up at around 7. And there was a lot of milk in our home, a lot of milk. So if there's no, you don't want to take milk, you'll fix porridge or chai. But also, our parents used to brew busa. So you will take either milk uji, busa for breakfast. It was just a breakfast thing, so busa could be part of that. So whenever I'm asked, when did you start drinking? Really, I don't know, because it was part of my breakfast things, I could say. So we wake up that morning. By that time, my siblings are quite small, and my older stepbrother kind of wanted to just harass them, something that I could not accept. So I told him, you can't do this, and started exchanging words there. And then his mother came out and started commanding me, ordering me around to be respectful to the older, to my stepbrother who was older than me. And I said, I can't take it because he's harassing my smaller sister and brother, and I can't allow that to happen. So she was quite furious with me, but my stepbrother now wanted to beat me. And there we fought badly. And my stepmother joined my stepbrother to beat me up. So I had to look for stones, and I managed to scare them off. So I won the battle that day. But when my father came, it was another game, because all of us were punished, severe punishment, but we also sorted a cock. So we ate together again as a way of reconciling us. So it was quite a day. Yeah, but still remains fresh in my mind.
So before you became married, or you married, how was the dating life? Because to most of us, kukatiana ni ngumu. So how did it happen?
Well, I gave my life to Christ when I was in Form 3, under very unique circumstances, and that technically changed my life. I became quite focused, stopped feeling sorry for myself, the sense of rejection, started living, and so when I was of age, my life was bumpy. I mean, we used to go to a fellowship, and in this fellowship there was this lady who was quite gifted, nice in singing, loved the Lord in prayer, would go out to evangelize. And so I shared with my friends, hey man, I like this girl. He said, no, don't just like her. Do you love her? Go ahead and share. Tell her that. And you see, when you start thinking about someone, sometimes you start having dreams. So I will dream we are fishing together with her, and when I shared my story with these guys, now you're in ministry together. So I approached her. I told her my expectations and my desires, and she was quite forthright with me. She told me, Evans, you are young, you are a child. She looked quite small in body, and so I said, no, I mean, clarify. So in clarification, I realized this lady was older than me by 10 years. You can just imagine, for a young man, and you approach this lady who looks to be young, and it kind of shocked me, but I said to myself, well, age is just a number. I really love you, and we went on. She put another surprise, that she was married before, and the marriage didn't work. That was like a killer. And again, I encouraged myself, okay, I mean, many people have gotten married, things haven't worked. That's okay. But I asked her, why did it not work? And that was heartbreaking. She told me, Evans, I'm hypertensive, and I can never bear children, and I don't know for how long I'll live. That was too hard for me. So I started working around how to get out of this relationship. So I shared my fears and concerns. And to cut the long story, not going into details, our relationship came to an end. And really, she was called Lydia. Lydia didn't live long. I think 5 years down the line, she passed on. That was my first girl to love, and you can imagine the fear. While I was still in college, I loved another girl. And I did my calculations and said, okay, I'll share my feelings and my desires, and so I went ahead, went out several times again, and I made a proposal to her. We started moving on, and she said, yes, Evan, so why not? So I introduced her to my pastor. He prayed for us. I introduced her to my friends. We went out for ministry together. And along the way, she was ahead of me in terms of college. So she finished and joined another college to pursue further studies. And when I went to see her one good day, this lady, I'm so excited to see her, I said, oh, why did you come? What have you come to do here? She said 3 words that I still remember up to now. Umeni hudhi, umeni sinya, na umeni bo. Wow. I went blank. I went blank. So I didn't know how I got to college, back to college, because I was totally confused. Miraculously, I got into the room and I locked myself in the room for 3 days. I never came out. I felt quite lost because I gave myself into this relationship. It took a number of my friends again to psych me up and, hey man, you need to style up. You can't just die here like that. And so it took a few days at coming back to my senses. And I told myself, I do not want to get myself into another relationship again. Enough is enough. So it took me around 2 years. And I cried to God. You know, like literally crying to God. I remember that day again so nicely. I went to the pulpit area, knelt there. I prayed, it was 3 in the afternoon. And in the process of praying, I experienced such an immense peace of heart and mind and environment. I literally slept. I woke up at 6. And when I woke up at 6, I felt it's done. 2 months or 3 months down the line, I met with Christine, my wife, in very unique circumstances again, and we started knowing each other, started courting, relating. But I also wasn't just there to feel nice with my girlfriend. I was very clear. I was looking for a lady to marry, not just to feel nice with. So, I communicate that from word go. So we get into this relationship. My desired goal is marriage. So she struggled with that. We were still living in those days of letters. Phones started coming, but I was a reserve of few. So after making a proposal, it took a while. Really not long, a week or so. I got a letter. She's a professional teacher, and so she was teaching. And so I got a letter from her. I do not want to do anything that's not God's will. And at that moment, because of the 2 experiences, I was sure I wasn't going to convince her to love me. And so I told her, anything that's not God's will in your life, don't you ever take it. Because I was feeling like, okay, the Lord's delivering me from the heartbreak. So when I responded that way again later, after a few days, he just said, can we have a talk? And in the talk, he says, I think you're the guy. And so we set our plans slowly, and within 1.5 years, we got married. And here we are, blessed with 3 children. Favor, who turned 18 on Sunday, this last Sunday. Lavin and Joy. Lavin doesn't like her age to be known, so I'll respect that.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you said you were born again at Form 3.
Yes.
So at the age of 13,
Yes.
what class were you in?
At the age of 13, I just finished class 8.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so I stayed home for some time, then went to Form 1 later.
Mm-hmm. So at that period,
Yes.
it's the time you left the house of your mom.
Yes.
So how were you able to manage to go to high school on your own?
My aunt paid my fees, but she also put a condition for my father. She said, "You raise 20%, I'll raise 80%."
Wow.
So my father will lease our land, I will sell a cow, then my aunt will top up with the 80%, and that's how I managed to go to school.
So being a parent, how do you relate to life as a parent and as a pastor?
Life is quite interesting. As a parent, this time I appreciate my parents more. I appreciate them in the sense that parenting is a huge responsibility. And when I think of us having been 22 in total, and 9 from my mother, she's the one with the highest number. I just sometimes wonder, how did they manage to take care of us? And no wonder really they struggled, because parenting is not just, even sometimes not just paying fees, but being there for children individually, but also collectively. So as a parent is a huge responsibility, which demands time. The physical presence, because children keep on changing, and because they're growing, the way they behave today is not the way they behave tomorrow. And as a parent, you need to be there when they are going through all these changes. And some changes are quite negative, and so you need to point them out and correct them and encourage them to walk on the right path. So that has been quite challenging sometimes, but demanding. Now, being a pastor now complicates the matter sometimes. I remember there's a time we were, I think it was 2012 or thereabout, we were working on the budget in church, and for a week, for 3 days, we were coming home quite late. Really, there's a time we came home past midnight. And our firstborn child, Favor, was so disappointed. So he said, "Dad, you mean now this don't come home? Because you come, I'm asleep, you leave on, I'm asleep." And that became a reminder. But before that time, I was working for another organization. And in that organization, they took me away to Mount Elgon for 13 months. So I'll come home only once a month. And my brother-in-law, my wife's father, was living nearby. So he was the one who was spending time with Favor. So I arrive at night, and this morning Favor sees me and said, "Wow, Ango!" Oh, I just went back and resigned. I just resigned and came back. Mm-hmm. So it can be challenging. Sometimes pastoral ministry is quite time demanding, and parenting is time demanding. So you have to be, always to be conscious that ministry demands and family demands, and have to strike a delicate balance. Sometimes I don't manage so well, so my wife supports quite a lot, but I try my level best.
During those moments, did it feel like your child is questioning your responsibility as a father?
Totally, but also it was a clear failure, total failure, and I had to make radical decision to correct the mess. I just resigned. I don't advise people to resign, but for me that was the best decision I ever made. Resign, leave the job, come be with the child. And I didn't resign coming like I know where I'm going. I know I'm going to get this kind of a job. No, I just boom, leaving. Let me spend my time with my son. And God is gracious. Somewhere along the way, he gave me another job and started working. I was teaching, and it's from that teaching that I came to the Baptist Church.
Okay. Yeah. So until now, are you still a teacher? You resigned still from?
No, I resigned. I don't do two things at the same time, one at a time. So I left teaching when I was called to Nairobi Baptist. That same week, I was teaching at. By then it's called East African School of Theology. And now they call themselves KG University. I simply looked for another lecturer to come and take over my units. So I simply I communicated to the administration, and they accepted. Yeah.
So in that moment of transitioning, did you regret it?
Strangely, I'm that kind of person that I live my life today. I hardly regret my past, hardly, because I give myself fully to whatever I do, and when I'm moving on fully. So really, it's interesting. Till the other day, I was asking myself, are there things that I regret that I should have done differently? Again, I've served with I served as I served in different capacities in my life, and everywhere I've been, I've given my very best. And I don't think if I was given the same chance again, if I would do things different. I just give the whole of myself, so no regrets. Yeah. Even what I'm doing in Kikuyu now, I'm giving my whole self here. I don't think when I leave Kikuyu I have any form of regret. I give myself. Do I make mistakes? Yes, I do. But even that, I mean well, and I give myself.
So to most people, to relate to a pastor, ni kitu ngumu sana. So who is Evans in day-to-day life? Ndio mtu ajue, Simse is just normal like me.
Okay. Of course, I've said that Evans is a husband to Christy. He's a father to Favor, Love, and Joy. But we wanted Love to sound like a name, so we call her Lavine. But better she's Love. So Favor, Love, and Joy. Just taking an example of yesterday. Yesterday I was digging holes to plant pumpkins. I enjoy. I used to, because of my background, farming was quite a little thing. So even right now, whenever small opportunity I get to do some little kind of farming, just to remind me and refresh myself, I do some basic farming, feeding chicken. We have some few of them at home, taking off sukuma wiki, and those are things that I do that just makes me feel so nice. So it's easier for someone to relate with me from the farm perspective. Quite easy. Yeah.
Now, since you became a pastor and having a background of polygamous family, and the Bible is mostly against polygamous family, are you still with the same family? Ama ulifuata Biblia then ukajitenga mbali na wao?
When you look at the scriptures, not in terms of approving, but when you are born in a family, you are part of that family. And from a Christian perspective, you become an ambassador in that very family. So I was the first person to be born again in my family. And since then, quite a number of them have given their lives to Christ. Interestingly, if there's any major decision that has to be made in our family, including my oldest step brothers and sisters, they will seek my opinion. Almost what I say is final. So they come to me as a last person, and whatever I say is usually final. So we're quite, I'm quite part of them, and they are part of my life. They are part of my story. Yeah.
So in that decision-making process, to sometimes, I feeling ni kama unawafinya wanakukujia jiweni pasi.
No, siwezi kuwafinya. It is it is interestingly, I don't live at home. Really, it is part of. I sold my inheritance when I was going to school. I asked my father because my aunt now could not pay my college fees anymore. So I sold my land. So I didn't have inheritance in my family with the approval of my father. So I sold it and nilisema huwa nasema niliweka kwa kichwa. So I bought some land somewhere else, but we still connect so closely. So it's decisions that usually I make on behalf of my family. Usually they are crisis decisions. they turn to me when they are stuck. It's like, now where do we go last? And that's the time really they call me Bishop. Bishop, now you need to give us a way forward. And at that moment, it come in handy, and God helps us. Yeah. And sometimes it's a financial issue. So really they require cash. It's either bereavement or whatever responsibility that requires cash. And now we are stuck. Please, could you just show us how to move forward?
Yeah. Now, apart from the financial problems, how are you able to solve the conflicts in such a way you are in a neutral point, not taking one side?
It is, I think over time, it's become very easy for me. Because in a polygamous family, you will be seen to be inclined to favor your mother and your mother's family. But when I got married with Christine, one of the first things we did was to build for our father a house. And our father, by that time my mom had moved to another location. So my father was spending more time with my second stepmother. So we built a house for our second stepmother. And that kind of thing just neutralized everything. The rest. Huyu jamaa hajajengea mama yake nyumba na anajengea mama wa kambo. This must be a good guy. So really that, we didn't know what we were doing, but that really helped us. So ever since we make decisions, whatever we say, by God's grace, we are trusted. So no one questions our decisions. And we never seek to oppress or take advantage of our position. Yeah.
So in your family, among your kids, kuna mmoja unaonanga ataifuata hii njia ya Ukristo, ataenda kando.
Ataenda kando? My children?
Yes.
No, because they're still young. It's only Favor who stand 18, and for him, really his major struggle is how do you make God known. Yes. He usually calls himself a scientist. So it tells me, Dad, as a scientist, I want to make God known in this space. So he's very passionate about Christ. Lavine, our second born, again, not mentioning her age, she's also very passionate about Christ. So we are grateful, and we keep praying for them that they'll walk in the ways of the Lord. It's a prayer issue.
Yes.
Parenting, you can never say, I'm so good, I know I will do this. It's something that you keep on crying to God for help, as I do my part. I ask for God's help.
So as a parent, how do you help them avoid peer pressure?
It has not been such a huge challenge for now, because like when our firstborn was in primary, we took him to school in the morning, we brought him back in the evening. So we answered a lot of questions. On few occasions we've gone out to talk about stuff. When he's having this kind of pressure, girlfriend, boyfriend issue, and we've talked about it. The issue of money, the issue of professions. But also because I know that I don't know everything, I try to help him see people around his life who can help him. And I'm grateful that quite a number of them are helping him to speak in his life. Our second born, again, the remaining two, I still enjoy our ride every morning together, going to school. And that's the most beautiful moment we enjoy, because they're asking questions, we are relating, telling them things that they should not be concerned about, things that are not very important, involving them in making decisions, and asking them to pray. And literally everything we have done in our lives, our children have been part of this story in prayer. And they say, we did this thing because I prayed. Like I remember, I was given an example. We used to live in a one-bedroom house when we had our firstborn, and he asked, why can't we get a two-bedroom house? So we tried to pray for God to provide. And when we got money to move to a two-bedroom house, he said, I prayed for this house. And everything. So kind of they become part of that. And we tell them that we're different, so you don't have to do things the way others are doing them, because they are different, we have different backgrounds. And I enjoy telling them my story, and just showing them that I am what I am because of God's mercy and grace. And that has really helped them. The other day, our daughter was telling us how children don't work at home. Theirs is to do homework and watch TV. But for her, all of us, we get at home. I remove my suit and I'm tunaring sukuma wiki, and my wife is lighting fire to fixing ugali, and our daughter is washing utensils, another. So all of us are spread. We don't have a house help. So all of us are involved in the family, and that helps us to teach them even more. So we're grateful. Peer pressure is not such a big thing for us at this point. Maybe to come in the future, for now we don't know. Yeah.
Now, speaking of peer pressure, back in the days when you left the family, your big extended family, and then in high school you stayed with your aunt.
Yes.
So how did the other students bully you? Ama did you bully them?
Somehow I survived in a way that only God can maybe explain. For 4 years I was in 4 high schools. So almost every class I was moving to another school. And I had always to to withstand pressure. Of course, in the first high school, my stepbrother was also there, and he was a captain. So kind of he protected me. But once you're in Form 2, when you move when you're Form 2, no one can push you around. You are a survivor and you know how to survive. So, but also because, again, most of the time I was out of school. My aunt also didn't pay fees promptly. So most of the time I was in school. So even if I was in Form 2 or Form 3 or Form 4, whenever I was in school, I had a lot of work to do. I would not have the luxury of moving around. I used to be a footballer, but I couldn't play football anymore. Any single minute I'm in school, I'm copying notes, I'm doing this or that, just to catch up. So it was not an easy moment.
So what prompted this moving from one school to the other?
You almost know where the problem was. I moved, one, because of money. In Form 1, my aunt didn't pay the whole amount. So again, I stayed at home for 2 terms. And then I went to another school, was moved to another school. I was there for 1 term. I kind of dropped out of school again, went to another school. I was in that school for 1 day, then came back home. Then I went to another school. That's where I was able to complete from. It was purely on financial state.
Apart from the financial state, you could drop out in a kite to come and drop out. Mabeshte zako wako kuchallenge, like, how did they take it?
You know, when you live that kind of life, do you expect to have a friend? I didn't have friends. Anyway, I had one friend. When we finished class 8, he went to French school Camp Singer. I went to Chiptais Boys, and we've remained friends up to date. He's also now serving as a pastor. He did chemical engineering, but again, strangely, we loved the Lord. Again, the same year, 2 different worlds. Loved the Lord, and he was very supportive. Anytime I was out of school, he really bring me his notes to read. Probably I got what I got because of his much support. Yeah. So I had only one friend, and she was supportive. The rest ni wale tu mnajuana jamaa mtaani.
Now, before you became a pastor, as a parent, and now you are a pastor, what are some of your most exciting moments and low moments?
Exciting moments, every single day. I thank God that I married my wife, Christy. Every single day. That really excites my heart. The second thing, and my children remind me of this, say, Dad, you always be grateful to God that you have children or not troublesome. So it revolves around my family. But also when I look back, before I came to Nairobi Baptist Church, after undergraduate, I went to serve as a pastor with Kenya Assemblies of God back in Kitale. I was sent to a small congregation of 40 elderly people and very few children. And within a short time, I got married. I served as single, not married for like 6 months. Then I got married. And within a period of 5 years, that church had put up a permanent structure. The church had grown from 40 to 300. It was, every time I think of that, it really excites my heart. I just thank God that He was with us. But also in the same church, I had this Waze who really tormented my life. Who really tormented my life. I started pastoring at a relatively young age, around 28, at age 28. So, and you are giving leadership completely, you are reporting almost to none. Of course, sooner than later, at the age of 30, I was overseeing 7 congregations. Yet very young. And so some people undermined my leadership. Of course, sometimes I made silly decisions. So that was quite heartbreaking. But the hardest of all is when my wife was very sick. And it happened just not so long ago. That was, whenever I think of that, my heart trembles. Yeah, it was quite bad.
Yeah. How was it? Those who were undermining you.
Yeah.
Mishai resolve your issue.
They are my great friends. They are my great friends up to now. Whenever I go to Kitale, I meet them, my guys. 3 of them are pastors now. Their children are here in the city. Anita Baba. So it was. I mean, the relationship is quite good. It's quite good. Sometimes I'm work oriented. I focus on work, and I'm never interested in side shows. So when we say we're going this way, we're gonna go this way. So they wanted to frustrate me so that we don't go where we had agreed to go. And the church had a history. The church, when we went there, it was 21 years old. We were 13th pastor. Christian and I were 13th pastors. And so I told them, I am the last pastor to come from far. Every other pastor will come from here. No other pastor will you chase away. They used to have this tabia kufukuza wachungaji. So I told them, this one gonna stop. And strangely, miraculously, God is full of mercy. I say those things sometimes without even much understanding or thinking through. But while we were there, we took 2 people to Bible school. And really one of them is one who took over after us. And you can imagine, we were 13th in 21 years. So average 1.5 years, they were sending away a pastor. We served there for 5 years. This guy from 2005, he's the only pastor who is still there up to now. So the curse was broken.
That's quite amazing.
Yeah, the curse was broken. So and we are good friends.
Yes. So in that moment, ukiwa challenge that watatoa pastor from that church, unaogopa akikwambia hata wewe?
They threatened to send me away, but one, I had the support of the bishop. The bishop was really my mentor. But up to now, I've never been scared. I think because I know I'm giving my very best. I know God has called me, so I'm never really scared. When we agreed to move forward, fear is not part of my story. No, I've had a stone of a hard stone kind of. I am never shaken. Yeah. Though my face is quite deceptive. I look like I'm quite a soft guy. I'm not.
Yes, since you are young until today, has leadership always been your aspiration?
I think I lead by default. It's maybe because of my circumstances again. from a very young age, I had to take care of my siblings. I usually tell my children that I started cooking ugali at age 8. I had to fix ugali for them to eat because my mom wasn't there. I had to discipline my siblings to go to school. So kind of by default, maybe because I was born as a firstborn to my mother, so I had to assume that responsibility and just give leadership. Of course, when I was in school, I was a prefect here and there. Mainly primary and secondary school, I'm going to be a prefect, you know the story. So it couldn't work. When I got born again, I was highly involved in CU. I was again a leader in CU. Came after high school, came to church. I was a leader. Literally, I never aspired, but it just happened that I'm there. Yeah, just happened.
So, in high school, being in the part of CU leadership, then after you completed high school, did you join theology directly? Am I first underwent another profession?
I didn't. When I finished, when your children are finishing Form 4 and they are sharing what you will be doing next, for me, the next thing was being a pastor. It was very clear in my heart. And so the day I went home and my aunt asked me, how was the exam? Exam was good. And so what do you want to do? A pastor. I said, okay, I know the results. You are failing exam. I know the results. But when the results came, I had passed. But again, that conviction, I didn't have someone to tell me that you can still pursue this profession and still be able to be a pastor along the way. For me, it was be in a Bible school. So I refused to join university that time, and I was punished for it badly. Including being taken to AP station. But I said no, I'm not going. So my grandfather was alive by then. So he told me, yeah, being a pastor is a good thing. He was 65 at that time. He told me, a man of my age, now this is the age to become a pastor. You are too young to be a pastor. So I refused, and at that point, I actually say I was chased away from home. So again, it was another transition. I left my aunt and went to stay with my friend. And this friend, he's Bishop Edward. He was my friend, my brother, my mother, and my father. The guy was everything to me. He taught me so much, apart from preaching, because he was an excellent preacher, but he also influenced my eating habits. Kukula nyama, we are eating nyama in this place every day, and I cherish those moments with him. Yeah.
So, at that moment when you were chased away by your family to go and live with...
Chased away, you are not told where to go, you just chased away, yes. And I went to live with Edward, yes.
So, before that, what first clicked in your mind?
Was there anything? For me, I'm here. Regardless of what happened to my life, I'm all yours. All I want to do is to be a preacher man. And so I was, I gladly went to be with that guy. He wasn't a preacher such, he was a bicycle repairer. He was repairing bicycles at that time. So preaching was by the way. Lakini kuunda bicycle ilikuwa sana. And from there he paid rent, then from there he fed us. It was me, but there's also the pastor for Life Spring Chapel. Now this Siokimau. Pastor Zev. We were together with that guy and another pastor. So we were 3 of us. So we became 4. We are quite a team. And interestingly, all of us are pastors today. Yeah. So I just went.
Now when you are being chased away,
Yeah.
isn't that going against your parents' will? And in the Bible it says, respect your mother and father.
At that time it was very clear. Obey your father and your mother in the Lord. So I said, this one is not in the Lord. Yeah. But also the other challenge was, remember, we've had challenges all through. My parents, my aunt, as much as she was very supportive, but kind of I used to do extra work in the home. So sometimes feeling like a slave, because when other family members are sleeping, you wake up at 5 in the morning, wende ulime shamba kule karibu na mto, upande mboga. Yeah. So sometimes, when love is not demonstrated, sometimes it's so easy for children to be rebellious. And I think I was born again, but maybe deeply within me, I was rebellious. This is what I want to do. You people, I don't sense your love. Maybe you haven't been supported. Now I can interpret that. But by then, I just left. You chased me away. Boom, gone. That's fine.
Alafu bado kwa hiyo tu moment kwa akili yako au feel like, okay, I think these guys are right. Maybe hii path ya kuwa pastor, it's not the right thing for me. Acha tu niende nifuate my parents.
It has never crossed my mind, even once. No. I feel God called me. And I remember at a very later stage, when I going, and I never joined college for 4 years. I was busy preaching the gospel in the village, from place to place. I mean, loving the Lord. We list some land. We'll go plant sukuma wiki. So in the morning, I'll sell sukuma wiki on my bicycle. In the afternoon, go out for fellowship, serving the Lord. I remember those moments were a lot of excitement still. So my father later, sorry, I am cutting short. So my father later alone, he said, when I was now going to Bible school, my father paid 15,000 for me. And that was a big thing. He said, I'm doing this not because I'm supporting you, but I had a dream. An angel came to me and said, this is my servant. And so I believe my father, God spoke to my father. And this call, it's not like it's ish. I knew God called me from a very young age. Yeah, that I know for sure. Yeah.
So the journey of being called to become a pastor, how did you receive it? How did your friends take it? Your parents, your relatives?
As I said again, because I didn't have many friends, I only had one. And I'm telling you now, he's also a pastor. So, friends, no resistance. It was well received. My parents, of course, I also told you, it was totally rejected. Totally rejected. It is until, I think, 2007, when I was graduating from Next, the old guys didn't calling it AIU. So the younger guys call it AIU, but the old guys call it Next. So when I was graduating from Next, my father came, and we were with him there for 1 week, and my father was so happy that I'm a pastor. Yeah, but also I remember when I was pastoring in Kitale, there's a time he called me at home, and he told me, Evans, just in case anything happens to me, take care of your brothers. You are the guy that I trust in this family. So, yes, along the way they came to appreciate and celebrate me, but it wasn't easy. Yeah, it was tough. Totally rejected.
So, to the guys out there who want to become pastors, how do they understand the call of God, that this is their way?
I think it's good to have spiritual mentors, somebody who is working with the Lord, working together with you, having this conversation, because this is a new terrain. You have never been there, you don't know what it feels, you don't know what to do, you can make very funny decisions. I'm grateful to God that I had Bishop Mamuli that time, the bishop then. We became very close friends, and he started giving me preaching assignment and other church duties. Really, just 1 year after Form 4, and he would pray with me, and he's one of those guys again who did just confirm, God has called a young man. It's going to be tough, but hold on. And then this bicycle repairer, my friend, who's a bishop today, again, just being with them, Zeph, just a team of us spending time together, asking ourselves hard questions. Zeph is a trained teacher, but again, along the way, just says, this is what God wants us to do. And Zeph, it took slightly longer to say, okay, this is the thing. He was in teaching for quite a while, then he left it. So it's good to have mentors, have people who've gone before you, have a conversation with them, share with them where you are and what you're feeling, and I'm sure they will work with you and give you support, to make the right decision. Because do I regret that I made that decision? I don't regret. Did I suffer? Yes, I have suffered so much. Maybe if I had someone who held my hand earlier before I made bishop, I think I wouldn't have suffered. But again, just God allowed it maybe for me to go through that. So even being in school, apart from selling my land and my father paying 15,000, it's bishop who sold his cows to pay my fees. The members in church, I will raise money and pay my fees. So I'm a product of very many people. Very, very many people. Many people have played a role in my life. Many. I can't count them all. There are too many. Yeah.
Wow, quite an inspiring story. It is a pleasure. It was a pleasure to have you today, to share with us the life you went through before you became a preacher. And to the people out there, everything is possible. If you want to become a preacher, just pray over it. Asante sana.
Karibu sana, my brother Leonard, and it was a pleasure having you. Yeah, so.
Thank you very much. And to our viewers out there, asanteni sana kwa kuwa nasi leo kwenye hiki kipindi. And follow our shows for much more. Subscribe, share, comment, and like. Till next week. Bye bye.